Hi, I am Allie Camaletti, and you are listening to Snack Leadership. I will be talking about everything leadership, broken down into bite-sized pieces. You will hear what different leadership skills look like in organizations and how they can rise teams up or take them down. I help leaders build resilience and improve performance by bringing awareness to opportunity behaviors in my business. Spark your mindset. I provide leadership and sales coaching, as well as team building and guest speaking. My hope is for you to feel inspiration and to create a spark in your mindset. Today we are talking about motive. Leadership motive is your reason for being a leader and at what level your team questions your motives. I am talking with Michael Tanner, a leadership veteran with more than 28 years of highly engaged and practical experience. Through successful leadership positions of increasing scope, ranging from the U.S. Marine Corps infantry to C-suite executive, Michael is constantly increasing his knowledge and experience as a leadership practitioner. He prides himself on leveraging his unique combination of education, skills, and experience to harness the greatness within his clients and unleash the possibilities of their leadership potential. Get ready to hear what leadership motive is all about. Hi, Michael. Thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your perspective on our focus today being motive.
Awesome, Allie. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really honored and blessed to serve you and your audience any way I can today.
Thank you. All right, so I like to start off. What has made you embrace the leadership skill of choice being motive?
All right, so we so I teach leadership with the Credible Leadership Group, and we in our teaching we teach four components of leadership, but I believe arguably that motive, the concept of motive that we teach in leadership, is the most important of those four concepts. And I'll just tell you what the other four are and tell you why I believe motive is the most important. But the other four are credibility, competence, relationship, and then motive. Now, the reason I believe motive is so important is because we've built this. I'm a computer science and math guy, right? So I needed an equation, I needed a formula for measuring leadership. And so we put those four components into an equation. And I believe the reason motive is so important is because in that equation, we put motive in the denominator of the fraction, which means it's being divided into all the other components essentially. Now, why that's important mathematically is if your motive score is really high, then it's going to greatly decrease your leadership effectiveness. So we have to ask the question then, well, what do you mean by motive? What does motive even mean? Motive in our teaching is really this answer to the question, why do you want to be a leader? And the answer is in the perception that your people have of your reason for being a leader. And it's really, is it a selfish reason or a selfless reason? Right. And so if your people question your motive and they believe that it's a selfish motive and they question that at a really high level, then because it's in the denominator, your leadership effectiveness, your leadership score is going to be greatly reduced. So that's why I look at motive and this idea of, are my motives for leadership, are they selfish or selfless? That's why I believe it's so important to your leadership effectiveness.
Oh, I love this so much. And I'm going to go off script a little bit and I'm going to ask, have you found people that sometimes realize the pendulum's going a different direction and they've got to bring it back?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of the things that I admire the most, especially when this happens in a group, is I will be teaching leadership and I will be teaching motive and I will be, working people through the answer to this question, why do you want to be a leader or why do you want to be in leadership? And someone, even in a group from time to time, they're honest and transparent enough to raise their hand and say, well, as I think about it, I got into leadership for selfish reasons. I wanted the prestige, I wanted the title, I wanted the compensation, right? So I have, and I so appreciate, again, especially when it's in a group setting, I so appreciate when someone is willing to be that honest and say, well, I got into leadership for selfish reasons. And they're also then, I think, able to start connecting the dots to see, well, then their selfish motives are really impacting their leadership effectiveness. And the next questions that come along with it, well, if my motives were selfish in nature, well, how do I change that, right? How do I just change my attitude or my behavior about leadership? And the truth is, we can do that. And to the point you're talking about, we can take the action that swings the pendulum over to the selfless side of that motive. And look, um, we can not be intentional and all, and that pendulum will kind of naturally, swing back towards selfish and so forth. But yeah, I so appreciate when people are willing to acknowledge that, because we can take action to move the pendulum back to the selfless act.
Love it. So, what have you witnessed when in a culture the leadership team is really in line and they all see the bigger picture with their motives? And is it always just one motive together, or do they have different motives? And how do they mix?
Yeah. Well, I think it all rests on the shoulders of the leader, right? If the leader is acting and making decisions in a selfish manner, then the team members are likely to do the same. They're going to take action and make decisions and so forth in a selfish manner. Also, mainly because it's kind of a they need to cover themselves, right? Because if the leader is being selfish, then they need to protect themselves as well. But when the leader begins to act in a selfless manner, make decisions and act in a selfless manner, then it just like selfish motives, selfless motives become contagious, right? And you see your team members they kind of free up, right? They're willing to they're willing to take maybe some risks that otherwise they probably wouldn't, right? They're willing to be a bit more aggressive, maybe with a schedule than otherwise they wouldn't have been willing to do that, and so forth. So you'll see this freeing of your team when you, as the leader, exhibit these selfless motives. Because again, what's happening in that case is those that you're leading, they're no longer questioning your motives. They know that as a leader, you're there for the team. You're not there for yourself. You're there for the team. You have the team's best interest at heart. And so they don't spend all their time now questioning your motives. They just spend their time doing what they're supposed to be doing as aggressively as they possibly can. And it aligns with uh, another aspect of our leadership teaching, which is our definition of leadership. Uh, our definition of leadership is influencing others towards a shared goal. Influencing, in our definition, it carries with it this idea of a willingness to follow. Right? I want to follow you. I'm not following you because you have a title or you're the boss or you could fire me or something like that. I am following you because I want to. And if your motives are selfless in nature, that enables me to follow you willingly. I can't really follow you willingly if I believe your motives are selfish in some way.
Ooh, so I have to ask. You're the leader, right? You have
Sure.
these great motives,
Yep.
but then you have an owner come in and they have a different agenda. And we can use all kinds of examples, but I'm gonna let you go with it wherever you want on how you navigate that as a leader who is really grounded in values and the motives, but you've got heat coming from the top that doesn't align.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, Allie, I wish I could tell you that that is uncommon, right? That, oh, I've never ran into a situation like this. I wish I could tell you that, but that is certainly not the case. When you as a let's call it a middle manager, right? So you're in the middle somewhere. You have a team of people that report to you that you're responsible for, but then you have an organizational chart above you, right? And to your example there, your direct boss, maybe your direct boss has very selfish motives in his or her leadership, right? You have to recognize in that position, one of your most important roles in that middle management leader position there is to protect your team. Now, I don't mean to silo them and only allow them to do the things that you want them to do and things like that. That's not what I mean when I say protect your team. What you want to do, though, is you want to protect your team from feeling that selfish motive. And the most important thing that you can do is you kind of play this middle ground, this middleman, is when your boss is telling you, hey, get your team to go do this. One of the most important things that you want to do as a leader in that situation is have the conversation with your boss to understand the all important question of why, right? And you're not going to be all, belligerent about, well, why do you want us to do that? No, what you okay, I understand you want us to go take this action over here. Could you give me a little more information exactly why we're doing that so that I can lead the team well and make sure that we do a really good job? And so you want to get the rationale behind, well, why are we doing that? Because then you can go to your team and you can, in a selfless way, now you can communicate, hey, we're going to go do this, we're going to take this action. Maybe it's doing some tasks that none of us really want to do, but if I can answer the all important question, hey, we're going to go do this, and here's why we need to do this. This is why it's important. We're going to get this done, and so forth. Now I've protected my team from, a selfish motive maybe of the boss when I can answer that all important question of why. So you've got to be that protector in the middle when that's the case.
And it's so true. And I feel like you alluded to this, but is there more that you want to add about what can happen in cultures when healthy motives aren't there?
Yeah, I mean, it's just so stifling, right? I mean, it almost feels like you're smothering. I read a book here recently, and it talked about how one of the primary functions of the brain is to try to reduce the number of calories that it has to utilize. Right? We have to recognize that when we are in a culture, when our leadership is being questioned and when our team believe that our motives are selfish in nature, our team then spends a lot of brain calories questioning our motives. And when that's the case, at best you're getting a half-hearted effort from your team when they're questioning your motives, right? So when you go to a team member and you say, hey, I need you to go do this task here, and it's one of those tasks again that no one likes to do, well, that team member walks away and all they're thinking is, well, why did he make me do that? What did I do to him? Why is he angry with me? Why is he making me do this? Why didn't he make these other people do that? Right. Think about all of that brain energy that's going on in that person's mind. And when they go and do that task, like I said, at best, I'm getting a half hearted effort. But if if that team member knows I have completely selfless motives in my leadership and I ask them to do that exact same task, they don't spend all that time and energy mentally questioning my motives. They spend their time thinking about the task I ask them to do and going and getting it done. And so you're just going to get the maximum effort out of those you're leading when your motives are understood to be completely selfless.
Yeah. I think of Brene Brown when she says, clear is kind.
Yes, yes. I know I know Brene really well as also I've read many of her books and her speeches, and Dave Ramsey actually has a very similar statement: "To be unclear is to be unkind." So yeah, I totally agree with those statements.
Awesome. Anything else you want to add before I ask you about your favorite leadership mentor?
No, I mean, I again just keep in mind that your motives, whether or not they're selfish or selfless, they're being divided into your leadership effectiveness score. And you just don't want a situation where your people are questioning if your motives are selfish. If you're one of those that realize, hey, I got into leadership because of selfish motives, then you can turn that around. And the way you turn that around is you start taking action, and then the feelings or emotions of selflessness will follow the action. It's like exercise. None of us feel like exercising, before we do it. After we do it, we feel a whole lot better about having done it, right? So if you'll do things like recognize and express appreciation to your team members as you see them doing good things, be sure you be intentional. Go and be specific and express appreciation for those things that they're doing. And then what that does, again, that action, it starts to build up that selfless attitude, that selfless motive in your leadership. And as you do more of those actions, similar actions, then you'll more and more exhibit a selfless nature in your leadership.
Perfect. Okay, so who's your favorite leadership mentor?
Oh man, I have so many, and so many of my leadership mentors don't even know that they're my mentor, right? I mean, John Maxwell, Ken Blanchard. There are so many books and leaders out there that I read. But you know, one of the things that, or one person I would mention, and this goes way back. The very first place that I learned leadership was actually in the United States Marine Corps, and I had a sergeant, Sergeant Bass. I'm not even I'm not even in contact with him anymore, but he is a leader that taught me servant leadership even in the military ranks, right? He taught me that rank wasn't leadership, that it was more this influence, this servant leadership nature. And he did so much to help us as young Marines, even to the point that oftentimes his help meant that we were going to leave his squad, but yet he was so interested in us that he poured into us and he helped us. I remember one summer, for instance, he got me a really cush job as a lifeguard at the swimming pool on base, which means I didn't have to, pull duty like all the other Marines and all that. So it meant I was going to be out of his squad, but he was okay with that, right? He was so looking out for us as members of his team. And I just remember that as kind of that first shining example, especially in a military setting, of a servant leader. So he would probably be one of my early heroes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. How about a quote that really embodies that leadership skill of motive?
Yeah, so I have a quote I use a lot, and I've never been able to find the person that this is attributed to. It's usually attributed to anonymous because no one knows, kind of thing. But the quote that I use a lot is this: if serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. Right. If serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. So if you're not willing, right, if your ego can't be lowered enough to serve those that you're leading, then leading is just beyond your grasp, right? You're not going to be able to lead people if you can't first serve them.
That is so, so true. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite snack?
Oh man, this is an easy one for me, but it's really, really broad. Anything chocolate. I'm a huge chocolate fan, and I know when you're talking snacks, you shouldn't necessarily be talking unhealthy snacks. But I'm a big chocolate fan, and if I had to narrow it to one, I think it would be plain M&Ms.
Okay, I like it, but now you have me curious. Milk chocolate, white chocolate, dark chocolate?
Oh, milk chocolate.
Milk
Yeah, for
chocolate.
sure. Milk
Yeah,
chocolate.
there's no
Yes. Yes.
question.
I'm definitely a milk chocolate. See, yeah, I don't, when I say chocolate, yes, I mean milk chocolate. Yes.
That's great. Oh, Michael, so much good information here. And I really appreciate that as people are kind of navigating their leadership journey and what works for them and understanding what it really takes to be a true leader. So thank you for your time.
Yeah. Thanks so much again, Allie. I'm honored and blessed to serve you and your audience any way I can. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
All right. You have an awesome day. Thank you for tuning in to Snack Leadership. I hope you felt inspiration, motivation, and felt your mindset spark. Snack Leadership is recorded and produced by myself, Ali Camilletti, and music by Shireen Amini.